Hi, I'm Gabby and I'm an accountant. I work in the accounting department of a factory where we manufacture LCN door closers. Door closers can be found at the top of the door. They generally look like a rectangle box with a long metal arm attached, and they help to control the opening and the closing of the door. LCN is a smaller part of a larger company called Allegiant, which has factories and offices all over the world. Other factories that are part of the Allegiant family, they make locks, they make doors, and they make other safety and security products. So, like I said, I work in the accounting department of the factory. Normally, in an accounting job, you would work during the week, Monday through Friday, and have weekends off. I usually work 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. I have a lot of responsibilities at my job. First, I keep track of a budget, which means I keep track of how much money the company earns and how much money the company spends. It's not just companies that do budgets. Even families have budgets that they do. For example, your families probably do a budget every month to figure out how much money you'll spend on groceries, gas, rent, other expenses. So a company budget is similar to that, except we have to figure out how much we're going to spend on paying employees, making our product, and fixing our machines and our buildings. So I work with the engineers on projects to improve our processes and products. So an engineer is a person who designs and builds things. So our engineers at LCN either build new products or they change the way we build them. So when an engineer has a new idea, I help them figure out how much it will cost the company to make their new idea happen. And finally, I keep an eye on our employees to make sure that they're following the law when they do their jobs. So that is usually called auditing. So I'll audit their processes and procedures and just make sure that the way they say they do it is how they're actually doing it. I will say I have done a lot of college. So normally for an accounting job, you would just need a bachelor's degree, which is 4 years of college. You would either get a bachelor's degree in accounting or in a similar field like business or finance. I also have an MBA, which is short for Master's in Business Administration. So this is a degree that many people in the business world will get to advance their skills. It is an additional 2 to 3 years of college after your bachelor's degree. It is definitely not required, but I actually really like going to school. So I just decided to go ahead and do it. There are also some certificates accountants can get, which are like degrees, but they don't require as much schoolwork. So, for example, a lot of accountants get a CPA license, which stands for Certified Public Accountant. This lets them work for the government, work as an auditor, and do people's taxes or businesses' taxes. When I was a kid, I never thought I'd become an accountant. However, as I got older, I realized that I really enjoyed solving difficult problems and I really like the cold, hard truth of math problems. So, what I mean by that is that 2 plus 2 will always equal 4, it will never equal anything else. And that kind of certainty really appealed to me. I've never been a very creative person, honestly. So writing stories and acting and things like that, it's kind of been a weak spot for me. But I'm really good at looking at a set of facts and using them to come up with an answer to a problem. So I would say if that sounds like you might consider working as an accountant in the future. My job is important because every business and every individual needs money to accomplish their goals. My job is to manage the money for the business and make sure that they aren't spending too much and are also making enough money to keep the factory open. I think a lot of people do accounting work and they don't even realize it. So if you've ever had a lemonade stand and kept track of how much money you earn, that's accounting work. Or if you've ever decided to save up your allowance for a big purchase that you are interested in, that's a little like creating a budget. Sometimes adults might start a savings account for a child that they can use later in life to buy a car or go to college. And that involves some accounting work because you have to figure out, how much you need to save and how long you have to save it. So you can figure out how much money you need to save each month or out of each paycheck. Accountants are in pretty high demand in the workforce right now, but the important thing to remember is that the work accountants do today is much different than the work they used to do. Accountants today do a lot more analysis than they used to. Analysis sounds like a pretty complex idea, but I can almost guarantee that you have done some analysis at some point in your life. So, as I mentioned earlier, it has a lot to do with looking at a set of facts and using those facts to make a decision. If you've ever had to decide between two choices and pick the best one, you've done some analysis. Decades ago, accountants did everything by hand. Their job was very manual, and most of their job consisted of making sure the math was done correctly. But today's accountants use technology to complete most of their manual transactions. So instead of worrying about adding and subtracting, we spend a lot of our time looking at numbers and making sense of them so we know more about the business. For example, we might be able to look at our sales and decide which of our products our customers like the most. Or we might look at our budget for repairs and decide that we need to buy a new machine because it just costs us too much to keep fixing it. Today's accountants are much more involved in making decisions for the business than they have been in the past. Accountants can work in a lot of different jobs. They can work as auditors, which I mentioned earlier, and make sure people are following the law. Forensic accountants usually work with police and detectives like the FBI to gather evidence to put people in jail when they aren't following the financial laws. Tax preparers help business and individuals do their taxes. Bookkeepers usually work for businesses and do a lot of activities like making sure the bills get paid, for example. Accountants can also work in payroll departments and make sure people get their paychecks. So there's a lot of options if you're interested in the world of accounting. And there's just, in general, there is a lot you can do.